Thanks for the invitation. I'm super sorry I'm not there in person. I was really looking forward to meet you all and also to have some exchange in person, but now we do it digital as we actually already were quite fed up with, but stick with me. I hope I will try to make it as fun as possible. So tonight's little talk or input I want to give is about one of my recent artistic research projects that I'm working on. So I will start sharing my screen. It's easier also to follow. Okay, we still need to, can you activate that I can share it?
Sure.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. So today I want to talk about ecotones, acoustic stories of wetlands and interstitial spaces. So as an introduction, maybe also as well, I'm an artist and a freshwater ecologist. And the term ecotone is one that I fell really in love with. And it's a super important area for me in the river because I mainly research rivers and their surroundings. So the ecotone is this space in between. It's a transition zone. You never know exactly if it's water or already land or still land, and not water yet. So it's a place of uncertainty, but also a huge space for possibilities. And at the moment, we're facing quite a degradation of these ecotones, especially due to drying up, dredging the river, regulating the river. So I'm also a bit here now today talking as an advocate to open up the rivers again, stop taming them, letting them free flow, and also allowing some changes to happen again. So here you can see, for instance, a very famous ecotone. You might not have recognized it right away, but it's the Danube Delta. So it's where the Danube meets the Black Sea, and this is one of the ecotones. It's a hotspot of biodiversity, and actually it's super hard to get there. It's super hard to orientate yourself. Therefore, also a really good hiding space for centuries already. So what I want to show you now also is a little video, also as an intro for what I will talk on more. It's this ecotones turned into let's say earstones. And I would just want to, I think I just played the video. It's easy, it's almost self-explanatory. So I stop this and we start again with the video. So here we go. Let me take you on a little journey from prehistoric sands to bioacoustics. Taking up space with otoliths deals with rivers, fish, and humans. Or, in other words, natopari topotami. Rivers are in constant shift. They rewrite their history every day. Land is being lost and gained. These processes help the ecosystem of the river to stay healthy. To do this, the river needs room and condition that strongly changed over the last 150 years. So let's look at the river. Who owns it? The ship companies sending their goods along the river. So they started straightening it to have secure navigation routes to guarantee the economy. Or is it the aquatic life? Everything underwater, usually completely invisible to us. Working with fish, I asked myself, where is our common ground? I work with a really old fish species, the sturgeon. It's almost a living fossil, and here on Earth since 200 million years. The common ground is a tiny structure situated in our ears. It's the ear stone. For fish, they mediate hearing, but also keep balance. They grow every year, like in a tree. There are rings. For fish, they mediate hearing, but also help them to keep balance. They grow every year, like in a tree. There are rings, and show the living conditions of the fish. If they had a lot of food, little shortages, or were facing chemical pollution, for instance. For humans, earstones are crystals and really tiny. They reach their size when we are a few days old. But if they start to move, we start to feel really sick. This often happens when we get older and our composition changes. So, how to understand rivers better? We need to start to listen again, not by using more tech devices, but by recalibrating our own ears. To fight the dizziness, the vertigo, we have to bring the stones back in place. This is done by maneuvers, choreographies, so to say. This also raises the question of how much space do we actually need? We need to focus on the geology in our body first, to then be able to hear like a fish and hear the river of the past, present, and the future. To understand that we are the river all the time. Okay. So, back to slides. Yeah, why I wanted to show you this river, this little video is because it's somehow shows a bit my thinking process of how to come to terms with that I work a lot with fish that are super old, and I constantly feel like I'm spying on them, and was not sure how much how I'm working in a restoration project to actually protect the fish, or if I'm already a secret agent constantly tapping into their livelihoods, or how they hang out. So what I tried to find out is like this common ground that we share with fish. Sure, we have a lot because we all come from water. We have those aquatic origins, but is there one specific thing, one specific entity, or in this case, actually a biomineral that we share? So I was super fascinated to find out while talking to a friend that, her ear stones were out of place and she was completely dizzy all the time. And she was really struggling with that. The only way she could overcome all these barriers and get on the ground again, be able to walk straight again and not feel like she has to puke all the time was by doing these maneuvers to relocate her ear stones. And then I was thinking about my education. And in fish anatomy, the first thing you have to do is to dissect the ear stones of a fish. And only if you can do this, and if you find a pair of the ear stones, you're actually able to go to the next step and pass this test. So it's also an excavation, and it's very extractive because you have to slice the head open of a fish, and beneath, you can see this here in the right image, like the fish ear stones are left and right from the fish's brain, and they're located in the ear tube in a little sac. And the cool thing is that fish, even though they're much older and we often think we are more developed, actually fish ear stones are so much cooler than the ear stones we have because they grow throughout the whole lifespan of the fish. And therefore, also archaeologists, paleontologists tap and look for those ear stones because that's often the only thing that remains. So it's like a little, you can imagine like a little data stick that actually contains the whole information of the fish's life. So here you can see actually the actual size of a fish ear stone, the so-called otoliths. The right ones are some that I took out of a fish, a sardine that I was eating while I was at the sea. And the other ones are fossilized ear stones, and they are from the Natural History Museum. And they use them to know which fish were hanging out in this super old sea.
I think we're not seeing your slides.
Oh, wait. What do you see?
On you.
Oh, that's lame. Sorry.
Okay, now we have it.
So that makes much more. Yeah. Thanks for the comment. It's very important. So what I wanted to show you how it looks to extract an ear stone. So here you can see I did this in a setting that was really nice in the Natural History Museum, and I'm cutting open a Regenbogenforelle, so a rainbow trout, and I try to look for the ear stones, and it's quite hard, especially if you have an audience that is looking over your shoulder. And there on the right you can see the fish brain, and left and right are the ear stones. So this is what they actually look then like. And on the left hand, in this little glass tube, are the fossilized, the super old ear stones that are super old, means 10.2 million years old. And it's basically the only thing that remains from the fish, and also which could remain from this super old sea, the Tethys Sea, that was also floating, that had its shores on the outskirts of Vienna. And that's why I got really interested in it, because it used to be an ecotone. Back then it was the sea. Now it's an ecotone because we have still the floodplains, and they're also about to move, to dry out, to be gone forever maybe. So what happened then afterwards, like this research of the ear stones and finding that those, because another really important fact is how the ear stones are formed in our body. So we are not producing them ourselves, but they're really produced out of the water that we're drinking. So if the water is not only the pollution and traces of all kinds of anthropogenic changes are in the water, but also these minerals are extracted from the water It's calcium carbonate, so calcium carbonate. Yeah, don't know exactly how to pronounce it in English, but the really the interesting point for me there is, again, we have so much the river. We extract this from the water we drink, so it's again like one circle that is a bit maybe closing here, but also starting. And it's not for humans. It is our moms do this work. So while we're in the belly gestating, our mom extracted from the water she drinks during pregnancy. And then I wanted to work with this earstone, and what came up is a project that is now located on the Morava River, a border river, the Mar. And there you can pick up those earstones that are clay ceramics, glazed ceramic earstones in the shape of the earstones that from the fish from 10 million years ago. So now if you go there on a bike ride, because it's an Iron Curtain Trail, you can pick up a stone and try to look for the river, because the only thing, even though it's cold after the river, the only thing you don't see while biking there for hundreds of kilometers, you never see the river actually. So I was installing those stations to look for the river, and especially not only look, but also try to hear the river again. Yeah. And this is also like one of the installations, how the research also started, was because I was hanging out in one very specific special ecotone for quite a long time, the Mississippi Delta, and I was there. A lot of noise was happening all the time and a lot of change. And actually I was supposed to film a movie, to make a movie there, but the only thing that really popped into my mind, or what I really wanted to do, is to record sounds, because it was a huge soundscapes of, on the one hand you have huge oil vessels extracting oil from the soil and the ground, and then you have for instance, like you have fishermen still there, and you have this constant shift of the sediments, so you can hear this. And in the video I played you before, there's the background noise was most of these underwater recordings that I did conduct in the Mississippi, and now in the last years in the Danube and some other rivers. But what they both share is that they travel a lot of stones down the river, like the sediment is moving down the river. And one of the problems we have, for instance, in the Danube, that there is no more, that this movement has blocks. It's in the shape of the dams. And this is also one of the reasons why the fish I'm working with, and you can see it here, it's a little sturgeon, like this old living dinosaur. They also cannot migrate because they actually want to migrate the river up from the Black Sea up till Austria. But there is a lot of dams in between, and already in Romania, the first one. So this is also why they're about to die out, get extinct. And many of my installation works at the moment are also called ecotones, and try to combine many different aquatic places and aquatic topics that interest me. So it also deals with invasive species. On the left hand, you can see here a sonnenbarsch, a sunfish that is considered invasive, even though it's here already for 70 years and in Europe for already 150 years. So this is also a question about when is it ever possible to become native, or not native, but at least to be from a place that you inhabit for so many generations. And it's also a bit of criticism about my daily work as an ecologist, because in this field it's really hard to also bring up those topics. So racism against other species, for instance, it's not really there yet to discuss. It's which is quite sad. And I'm not sure. I thought I also want to play you this video, but maybe I just leave it like this. So also the video is a bit about that. So you see, it gives the chance that the fish can actually tell the story it has, and also deals with another topic that I find quite interesting, that is the changes of the hydrological cycle due to human impacts. And one of them is and actually I'm doing this now. I'm polluting right now, talking to you in this digital sphere, because I'm using the internet, and this is also using water in many cases. So I looked into data centers that use water to cool the server racks, and also to use it for air condition. And then most of the time, this extracted water is brought back into the river and makes it warmer. So one of the species that also really benefit from this is, for instance, the sunfish that you can see here. And this is also why it's the video is called Sons of the Cloud, and it says no water, no cloud, which is like a really nice picture also in your head if you think about it. It's true, we know that, but also really this abstract cloud where we're storing our data also really cannot function without water in a very basic sense. And that was also a reflection upon that.
Maybe we can see the video actually.
Yeah, if you want, it's short, it's 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it's without sound, and it has subtitles.
Please do so.
Yeah, but now you can imagine how it usually looks. So it's a 3-channel installation. This was now in Vienna at the Kunsthaus outside, because it's closed due to constructions at the moment. And so the fish could float through the house. That was quite nice. And it's close to the Donau, so also a bit the Donau was coming out of its riverbed. So we opened it one. Yeah, it's 4 minutes 45.
You got the time, it's all good.
Cool. So we start. That's that. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Maybe to quickly also say, so you can see that somehow the recent works I have, and I think they're all, so going back, why also calling this acoustic stories, because now, for instance, the last video, it was without sound. That was intentionally because the first time we showed it, it was during COVID, so it was in a closed gas station, and it was running 24 hours, like a shop, and it was also displaced in the shop windows, and so there was no even a possibility to play the sounds. And the other reason the video comes without sound in this case is because I film all the underwater the underwater takes. They filmed with a GoPro camera, and I filmed it myself during a whole summer, following the fish in my lunch break usually. But the interesting point was also that the GoPro has a filter, so it filtered out all the underwater sounds that I usually want to catch. For instance, when I use an underwater microphone, a hydrophone. So
maybe you can reshare your screen, because I think it didn't go full screen, and maybe like before. Thank you. Yeah.
Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not used to it anymore. Completely, forgot about how to use Zoom. Yeah, so
now you're on the first slide, so maybe we need to move forward.
I went back to, which is quite good to talk about this, how all these things are now related to sound, even though the video has no sound. And the video somehow goes also in between this research of wanting to find out how to stitch all these stories together. And at the moment, we're working on a sound-based project that is called Lobau Listening Comprehensions. And we're working there with an environmental historian and also a science communicator. So it's, again, because they already use sound in their daily lives to record, to make interviews, but also to document history of the recent past. And in my case, I try to catch fish underwater and if they make sounds and what they use the sounds for. So it's for the first time also in a bigger project that we can bring sound together. And in the video before, it was kind of the prelude kind of to what happened then with the ear stones, and that they are followed by different audio walks that you can follow along when you are on this bike path. But there's also now some sound walks for the Viennese Danube, and they are narrated by the beaver, the sturgeon, and the zebra mussel. And the zebra mussel is also an invasive species. So we have one species that was lost, that got reintroduced and came back. It's the beaver. Then the sturgeon, a species that is just about to be extinct, and we maybe are able to rescue it and to save it from being forgotten. And the zebra mussel is a species that has never been here and was introduced by human movements, trade routes. So they just came with an excavator that was digging the new channel bed for the Danube. It's also quite an interesting story. Yeah, I think that's that's it with the input, or the little intro. I'm super happy maybe if we can somehow still discuss, talk, chat, whatever. If some questions also came up, feel free to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So first of all,
Thank you.
I listened to a lot of talks about invasive species in the last few years, which are pretty, from my point of view, amusing to entertaining to frustrating to depressing. Where basically, from my understanding, the difference between invasive species and non-invasive species is usability, or like to what extent they're advantageous to us. Yeah? Because there are a lot of species which are moving in, which haven't been here, but we are. So a lot of times it only has to do with to what extent they're useful to us. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's this is where almost a root problem, because it goes back to, okay, what we need and we is like what humans want and what humans don't want. So especially if you look at plants, that's quite, yeah, this is really tricky, and this is also a very tricky thing, especially for fish. So because then if you look at fish, and an invasive fish species is only if it takes the habitat of another fish that is so-called native on this native fish list. But what we face now is that most of our native fish actually struggle so much from climate change that they cannot even compete with the species that are maybe more generalists, that are often were introduced after Columbus arrived in the Americas. So this is I think it's very short-sighted, because it does not go with a very natural movement that we have, that is change and adaptation. And it's actually a bit unfair to put this weight on a species, because usually the reason why these species are here is because we altered the ecosystems so much that also the Lebensraum, like the habitat, is not there anymore for the the conditions are just not here anymore. So I cannot even guarantee, for instance, often that the sturgeon can be happy in Austria. So I really have to also rethink this approach of restoration. So I think we will completely have to shift our understanding of invasive species sooner or later.
I mean, we had a talk early this year in June, where Lena Violetta talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So basically,
know each other. Yeah, super.
Yeah. So basically, she from my point of view, she basically focuses on the same and on a very similar aspect, but on a very different kind of point of view.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very interesting to see, like, to what extent she was really focusing on the Knoterich. I think it's called Knoterich, yeah. It's a hyper invasive plant, and it's very interesting. Like, what do we consider invasive, and what do we consider welcome? I mean, and again, here we have a lot of reflections about what we perceive as welcome immigrants and not welcome immigrants. Yeah. So, but in the end, we're not living on a rock, we're living on a shifting sand thing. Yeah. And to what extent can we handle that? Yeah. I think it's quite confusing, because there's no clear line. There's nothing you can really point. There's nothing you can really take a stand on, because in the end, it really comes down to usability. From my understanding, and what we believe is tradition.
Yeah, but this is also our very Western way of how we are trained to think, no? And me myself, I most do it because I really love to. I actually am a fan of this whole naming of things, but this is also comes from a tradition that is super static, and I think this is the main problem, because we have such fast changes at the moment that they cannot apply. So for instance, if you bring out a species list with heimische Fische, for instance, native fish, the moment this list would be printed, it's already out of date. So it's mainly also why we do this list is reasons of law and restrictions. So it's possible to follow guidelines to where, for instance, when to fish certain species, but also consideration of what is protectable and what not. So, and also what can travel and what cannot travel, because if you're an invasive species, you're, for instance, not allowed to be transported, but they are transporting all the time. It's also a very funny thing with the invasive plants, because what they best can do is spread. But if you spread an invasive plants, you make yourself, you can be prosecuted for that. It's a crime. But what the invasive plant can do much better than any native plant is, for instance, to open up structures, to open up concrete structures. So to think about, you could even start thinking the other way, no? The plant can open up all these sealed surfaces that we have and that we actually really need to rethink.
So from your point of view, is it better to just let the invasive species run free and see what happens? Or do you think we should protect?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a hard one.
It's super hard. I have no answer for that.
And at the moment, I would say actually that we have to protect. And the reason why is just because we interfered so much that we have to also deal now with many of the consequences, but maybe not interact as drastically as we do now. But I'm not sure. It's really like one day I would say this, the other day I would say that. It's hard to say. I think I cannot answer.
Very good.
Yeah.
It keeps on being confusing. So on this note, I would like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much for your impulses and your information. I really like your works, and hope to see you in person soon.